Hey everyone, Amia here from Resonance Astrology and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to take a look at the week ahead, the astrology of the week ahead from August, 4th till 10th, August 4th till 10th. And I do want to apologize for not uploading last week. The ones who noticed. And it's really because that dreaded moment that I was dreading my whole life came about. And sadly, one of my cats had to cross over the Rainbow Bridge. And that happened last Sunday. So it's been a bit over a week. And I just didn't feel emotionally stable enough to sit down on last Monday, and film this and everything. It was a very, intense, somewhat even also beautiful, intimate moment that happened. It's the first time that I lost somebody so close to me. And in that case, it's a new experience for me, and it happened pretty much very soon after that. Leo new moon that felt much more like a full moon in my opinion, and right about the time when the sun was opposing Pluto. And so that was I guess my sun opposite Pluto experience, 10th, 4th house axis with, my pet passing away. And, at the end of the day, I'm sad, he's been cremated now, and he's sitting on my altar. His ashes are sitting on my altar. And, I'm obviously sad, and I still, I'm not an emotional human being, so, but if I would have talked about it last week, I wouldn't have been able to do the video. But I am still glad the way it happened. I had this companion for the last 16 years of my life, and he's been such a good cat. His name was Kissy. And even though I think he kind of dreaded us giving him kisses, I think eventually he just, gave in and became the embodiment of his name. I don't know. And he was also mostly sleeping in my room, in my bed. And so, there's definitely a presence that's missing. But that's why his ashes are also in my room, And sorry, I'm really trying to do this without getting too emotional. Even though I know it's okay. I know it's okay. But yeah. If you guys have been watching this channel for a longer while, you would know that back in April, he lost weight all of a sudden, and that was really the first time that it really dawned on me that now the moment could be getting closer. And we always dread that, especially when everything in my life has felt so immortal until now, and I haven't really experienced any really close, no beings in my close vicinity that I feel close to really passing away. So, that was obviously a lot. And then there was just so much going on. And I feel like Leo, once again, just bringing that heart energy. And I just feel like there was a lot of anticipatory grief going into all of this. And so I feel like I intuitively knew that this moment was happening. And I was documenting everything a lot more, just, loving him just a bit more. And, and I was right. And then, soon after that, I woke up one morning, he vomited something, which is not out of place at all. It wasn't also anything weird he vomited, but the fact that he just sat there for a while and didn't move. I was like, that's weird. And then he like stood up and was walking weirdly, walking very wobbly, and I was just like, something is wrong as fuck. Excuse me for swearing, but yeah, and I thought, you know, maybe he got like a what is that called? A stroke, I guess. And maybe he did, you know, maybe he did actually. And so like I was with him, I was calling the vet, you know, it was a Saturday, so me and my brother had to bring him to not our close vet in our nearby vicinity. We had to go a bit further because they're not working on the weekends. And then for whatever reason, he kind of like through the car ride, he was more present again. And then when he was there, he was kind of like okay, but then we brought him back, and he just like, he was not eating, he was not drinking, and I couldn't force him. You know, I was constantly offering it to him, but I couldn't force him. And I think I was just like, okay, you know, if he wants to go, he wants to go, and what I can do is just accompany him as best as I can through that process. And so that's what I did. I was with him this whole night, you know, couldn't sleep at all because I wanted to be with him. And yeah, and so we were switching back and forth. You know, he was wobbling to the sofa, wobbling back to my bed, and back and forth, and I was going back and forth and everything, and just, you know, accompanying him through that letting go process. And it became morning, and my brother woke up again as well, and that's essentially, yeah, that's essentially how it went. And both me and my brother could be with him, which is lovely considering he's one of both of our cats, you know. I still have Archie, and she's chilling here in the corner, and I'm so happy she's still here. They're both siblings, just like me and my brother are siblings as well, and so they are our childhood cats, and Kissy was like his cat, so to say. Like, he chose him, I chose Archie back then at the shelter, and obviously they're both of our cats, you know, but my bond with Kissy also really strengthened over the past 3 years, and that's why he also kind of was in my room all the time. So yeah, but I'm, you know, I'm so glad that both me and my brother could be here in his last moments. We were, you know, chanting mantras and everything, and you know, when he was taking his last breaths, the sky was so gloomy outside, and like it was raining and everything. But exactly at that moment, all of a sudden, like, just the sun just came out, and it was hitting exactly through my window, like exactly onto him, and that was like really beautiful, you know. like I am actually, I feel like I'm more emotional because I'm like, that's like, what a champ for him to be able to pass this way, for you know, the fact that he didn't really have any major suffering, and he kind of just like went in his own time, and it was less than 24 hours from like him getting worse to this happening. So we didn't have to like watch him suffer through any sort of major disease or illness. So I'm literally like, you know, what a boss move of Kissy to go that way, to cross the rainbow bridge that way. And I have zero regrets, because I love this man so much. And yeah, I actually often said that he's the only man I ever truly loved. So yeah, so that's what has been going on, and this is why I just could not sit down last week to film the video at all. And yeah, and then big Mercury retrograde moment incoming here. Basically, we had or we still have guests that came from Croatia, and they were first like a different place, and they were like supposed to come to our place, and like since our cat was not doing well, we were like, please come a day later, like, you know, and that was a very good call. But then everything was like so awkward when they came a day later, because they're like coming into like our home, my home. My brother was much better at handling all of this, but for me it was just like, it was a bit too early, you know. I was like, I really don't want to have you know, at least one person that I don't know at all, and somebody that like I kind of spent some summers with when we were kids, you know, but don't like personally know him extremely well. And so it was just weird, because I feel like they weren't really showing any major like sympathy, empathy, because I think they don't really know how to do that. And so that was really taking a toll on me, and then it was just making me more stressed and more paranoid. And so the first few days were honestly a very bit weird, and I think there was a lot of assumptions and things going on in the back. I was just like, you know, avoiding them, so to say, because like I was like trying to have like conversations, but then I was just like, it's not really working. Anyway, so I feel like there was like a lot of speculation from both sides and whatever, and I feel like it kind of got a bit more cleared up yesterday, and I'm a bit more chill now, but you know, it just felt like, you know, people are coming into my home, and like, where is the line between like me, you know, being compassionate and understanding that, you know, they are our guests, and like I'm catering to them, and like I want them to have a good time, and also I'm grieving right now. Excuse me, like my best friend of 16 years is not here anymore, and I don't have the room and space right now, because y'all are here to like express my emotions in my home. And so that was all just a bit weird, to be completely, and it felt just so Mercury retro, you know, it was not what I expected. None of it was what I expected at all. There were plans we had, yeah, and we didn't do the plans according that way. And yeah, but I don't want to go like too much deep into that, because like I don't want to like bash anyone or whatever, but that's just kind of what has been unfolding, and that has just been kind of weird. Okay, guys, I'm happy that Mercury retrograde in Leo is ending soon. Yes, so this is a super long introduction. Yeah, I probably have to put timestamps below, because I'm not sure everybody wants to watch, you know, my insights. I feel like some people just kind of come on and they're like, show me the astrology, and that's fine, you know. It's called Astrology of the Week Ahead, so like if you come for the astrology and not for like my personal stories, like that's absolutely completely totally fine. But I needed to get this off my chest, especially because this is the first week I missed, and you know, it's not a huge channel. We're almost at 700 subscribers, and it's so funny because it's constantly going up. Like people are unsubscribing. I'm back at like 694. Then people are subscribing. Then I'm at 696, and it's constantly going back and forth between these two numbers. So I find that a bit hilarious. And I must admit, I feel like I have also been slacking a bit, but there is content brewing, you know, and I have to for my own soul's sake do things, because I saw I was like retrieving way too much instead of like going into like creating and feeling like empowered about all of this. And you know, like whenever, you know, my vice or my coping mechanism is like just, you know, being on the freaking internet for way too long and retrieving through these internet worlds, and everything, you know, like I'm a sober person. I don't drink. I don't do any other things. That's not what I do when I feel bad. Like that's not what I go towards. That's not my default, but it's definitely, you know, social media and everything that I go to, which, you know, one could argue is, of course, like, I don't know, which one is worse at the end of the day. I feel like both are damaging in their own ways. And so, Yes, I definitely need to create for my own soul's sake, and I'm trying not to beat myself up too much for missing a week. Because, these are my own standards and stakes that I put upon myself. Like, this is not a huge channel, but I'm like, at the end of the day, I have to be happy with myself. And I was like, I want to do these weekly overviews to just prove to myself that I can be consistent. And the fact that I missed one now, of course, with a very good reason, but still does make me a bit upset with myself. So that's that. And we're 15 minutes in, and it's most definitely, time to start talking about the overview of the week ahead. Once again, August 4th till August 10th. And honestly, the first part of this week is pretty quiet. There aren't really any major transits happening until Thursday. The moon starts off in Sagittarius, then moves into Capricorn, moves into Aquarius, and moves into Pisces. That's the moon's journey this week. And I actually really like that. That I don't know how you guys felt, but that weekend, when the moon was still in Scorpio, felt so melancholic. Felt so melancholic that I literally had to go and listen to my emo trap playlist again, which I haven't listened to in a long time. And as soon as the moon moved into Sagittarius and it was forming these trines towards the Leo, Sun and Mercury in Leo and Saturn and Neptune in Aries, it felt so much more empowering. And I felt so much more oh yeah, actually, I can take my power back. If the guests are annoying me, they're in my home, I should feel okay in my home, and I should tell them, I should tell them my feelings, and then things can get resolved. It's okay to have conflict. So yes, nevertheless, we are still in kind of an energetic build-up for this week, because all of this is leading up to a charged full moon in Aquarius, which is happening by the end of this week, happening on Saturday. Although depending on where you are in this world, probably also happening already on Friday. It's definitely the night from Friday till Saturday. So that's kind of, what's going on at the beginning of the week. But then let's go key transits, okay? Because now, by Thursday, August 7th, we have Mars entering the sign of Libra. And this is really the main ingress of this week. And Mars doesn't really love being in the sign of Libra because it's a sign ruled by Venus, and Mars is kind of forced to negotiate, compromise, and consider other people and all of that. It's that's why Mars just doesn't kind of really do well in the sign of where it's Venus, because it's okay, I can't just focus on my own lane. I have to kind of see how are other people doing with the actions that I'm taking, and that's why Mars is in detriment in the sign of Libra. But what I think is extremely fascinating this week in and of itself. And currently, as Libra is a sign in of itself, Libra is a sign in of itself for this whole year. Because Libra is the only sign that aspects all three outer planets at once in ways that none of the other signs do. So it's the only sign that opposes Saturn and Neptune in the sign of Aries. Okay, you only have one sign that gets an opposition. And then also trining Uranus in Gemini and Pluto in Aquarius, forming a big trine. I'm that's crazy. That Libra is very special in that case. And so Mars moving into that sign and then slowly forming one by one these exact transits, that is monumental to say the least. So, any planet that enters Libra activates a very powerful relational crossroads that we're having. And so we go on to Friday. This is the first transit that gets activated, okay? Mars in Libra, trining Uranus in Gemini. Okay, this is a creative, mental breakthrough moment, especially in how we relate and collaborate with others. And it's really about pivoting into new directions where we want to take our social interactions with other people without you know, going down that Mars road, which is sometimes about like severing and being a bit cutthroat and you know, like just charging. I don't know. Like charging straight forward without like thinking about the consequences, essentially. So that's happening by Friday. I think Uranus is just really, you know, invoking like new social dynamics, how we think, how we feel, how we interact. There's so much about, you know, AI and all of that in the air, literally in the air, once again. And it seems like Uranus in Gemini really has a lot to do with artificial intelligence, which I find quite fascinating. Gosh, I forgot the name of this man, but a few weeks ago I was watching like a few videos about like the people call him like the godfather of AI, and I'm sorry, I totally forgot his name right now. But I went to look up his birth chart. Like, we don't have an exact time, but we can see where the planets were, especially the outer ones. And he has natal Uranus in Gemini. So I'm like, interesting. The godfather of AI, like, has natally Uranus in Gemini. Is now getting a Uranus return. So there's like something major happening here. And the fact that it's like provoking all these questions of like, you know, what is like free thinking, what is free speech, all of that extremely fascinating in my personal opinion. A lot of these debates, and you know, Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury, always has this very tricksterish quality where it's like, you know, always arguing for both sides. It was like, okay, but this is right, but this is also kind of right, and is there really a right answer at the end of the day? So I think that's very interesting. And, you know, with that trine that, you know, Mars in Libra is then forming 2 Uranus in Gemini, I'm just like, there's something chaotic is kind of going on up in the air, where we really have to think about how we are, like, how are we going on about conflict, especially when it comes to like communicating and expressing ourselves, and how we are in a relationship. Like, are we having these impossible standards, or are we like not asking enough? So I think there's an interesting thing that's brewing. And then on Saturday, August 9th, we have Anyhow, sorry, I was just confused about a note that I made, but everything is correct. On Saturday, August 9th, again, we have full moon in Aquarius, okay? Once again, air sign. The end of this week is lots of air. Like, it's basically kind of an air trine that is forming, and air is so much about our relationships, about our society, about the way we interact with each other, communicate with each other, just the way we are in relation to each other, which requires expression and presence and speech, in whatever way, you know, you can express yourself in whatever way. So there's definitely something going on in like how we express ourselves by the end of this week. And with, you know, the full moon in Aquarius, there is, you know, it's always good to look back at, when was it? I don't know it by heart right now, but by the beginning of, you know, when there was the new moon in Aquarius, which I think was in February, like what started around there, because that was like the seeding point. And now we get the full moon in Aquarius 6 months later, so it's like, what is kind of coming into fruition? That's always something you can do in your personal charts, or when you're tracking transits, when you're tracking the moon. Like, look back to when that new moon was happening, because the full moon is an echo to that new moon. So yes, and obviously it's also culmination of what started during that Leo new moon 2 weeks ago. So yes, and I think it's fascinating, because that Leo new moon definitely felt much more like a full moon. So it almost feels like we're getting 2 consecutive full moons, you know. So Yes. And what's also happening on Saturday is Mars is opposing Saturn. And I think this is one of the most intense aspects of this week because Mars is in detriment and Saturn is in its fall. And, they're opposing each other across that Aries Libra axis. And, Aries is ruled by Mars. So it's like Mars is opposing its own sign in a weakened position to a planet that is also already very much weakened. In its position. So there's probably a lot of just expect delays, frustrations, tensions in relationships, or probably with some sort of authority figure or something that's usually very Saturnian. Sometimes can also be about yourself, your own authority, where are you slacking, where are you not taking responsibility, where you should be taking responsibility over your life. And this is definitely a bit of a pressure cooker moment, but it also reveals our real priorities that we have in life. And again, planets in fall and detriment carry a real underdog energy, which we can use to our benefits, because if everyone doesn't believe in you in the first place, you actually have so much freedom to wow people because they don't have expectations of you acing something or being something or someone. And then you actually coming out of nowhere and being like, I am that person can actually be so much more impactful. So I'm not hating on that position at all, but I do think it's probably the most intense aspect of this week. And it's also we're going to get this aspect 2 times in this constellation, okay? Because Mars takes about a bit more than 2-ish years to come back to its position, which is why we also get Mars retrogrades around 2-ish, 2.5 years. And so next time Mars and Saturn will oppose each other in that, Aries Libra axis is going to be August 29th, 2027. So we have this opposition once now on August 9th, 2025. Next time, August 29th, 2027. So, keep your eyes peeled because this is something that is happening this weekend and something that's going to echo once again, 2 years later. Okay. So whatever is brewing in your Aries Libra axis, that's something that's gonna, I don't want to say come to fruition, but it's definitely gonna kind of come to fruition when we get that next Saturn Mars opposition. And so I do think it's very fascinating. I actually want to write a whole post about this on Instagram, so follow me on Instagram because I post a lot of posts there that I don't post on here, in written form. So yes, and do think of these oppositions. Same with that Sun Pluto opposition that was brewing. There's a reason why we say it's brewing, because it really feels like that volcano that is about to erupt. But that tension when we feel like that something is about to erupt is usually much harder to handle than when the explosion actually happens, because then it's okay, now it's happening. Now I can just surrender to that experience. So while there's no major transits by the beginning of this week, we are feeling the buildup of the full moon. We are feeling the buildup of that Mars opposite Saturn. Okay, so actually, luckily, we don't have any major transits by the beginning of this week because this is enough to deal with in and of itself. And then on Sunday, obviously, if Mars opposed Saturn, Mars is also going to oppose Neptune, which leads to, actually, I feel like could lead very much to something called compassion fatigue, and just a confusion on your morals, your values, and things with your standing, because Mars moving into Libra. First of all, we're getting that Uranus trine, so it's all about how do I actually want to have my relationships with? How do I want to express myself? And now we're getting super confused about our motivations and what do we stand for? And so this is where our drive might feel a bit lost or misdirected. So definitely maybe good for a rest day. because I just don't think things are going to make sense. I think this weekend is going to be an overwhelming weekend, and I think there's going to be a lot of confusion, a lot of, Saturn as well is retrograde. There is not a lot of clarity, and Mercury's also is coming soon out of that retrograde, but not yet fully. So I just feel like there's going to be a big confusion, and we're kind of just going to have to roll with it. And even globally, there's always two sides to the coin, and I wish I could sit here and, the thing is with transits, I always wish they would show up in their highest form and potential, truly. I'm like, like Mars opposite Neptune. I'm like, yeah, we could totally, think over our motivations and then be like, oh, I'm actually gonna stand up for what's right and what's real and like screw the wars. At the same time, I totally see the opposite happening, where people go much more deeper into their delusions of dividing people and fighting for some sense of justice or whatever. And it genuinely pains me to see the transits through global events being expressed in their like worst expression of their best expression. It makes me utterly sad. That's just what I want to say, and that's just what I want to put out. Nevertheless, we are humans, singular humans as well here, and what we can control is ourselves, our responsibility over our own lives, what we stand for. And so hopefully in our own lives, we can find a better groundwork and frame to go off from. Anyhow, as you can see, it's making me a bit pissed. The worldly events are currently just making me pissed AF. Then on Sunday, we're ending it with Mars trining Pluto. So, right after all that opposition energy, Mars connects with Pluto. It's like, what else do we need? But yeah, this gives us a chance to take all that intensity and move something with it. I definitely feel like, because, Mars Pluto is a trine at the end of the day, okay? And a trine can be useful. It's definitely more useful than an opposition. Oppositions are usually a lot harder. A trine for me really feels like maybe we can alchemize that and transform that. Good old Pluto transformation, like. So, basically using our power wisely and not impulsively. Again, that's the best case scenario. The worst case scenario is literally the opposite of that. And I hope for whatever cosmic sake that we get the best scenario in our own transits, in the worldly global transits, and not the worst of it. Because a lot of these transits are giving a lot of war ideations and dying for the right cause and sacrificing yourself for the right cause and dividing people and all of that. And it's just anyhow, I'm not a mundane astrologer. I don't want to talk too much politics. I don't want to talk too much mundane astrology. There's channels that are much better at this. So that's what's going on. I do want to give you a small look ahead of the upcoming week, just because Mercury stations direct literally on Monday, a day afterwards. So there's something we can look forward to, So this week is the last stretch of that retrograde, and it's finally over. I am not a Mercury retrograde hater at all, but this one, I just knew, even when there was this pre-shadow period, I just knew I would not like this particular Mercury retrograde, and I was so damn right. Probably because it's happening in my angles, but oof. And what we're also having next week, what I do think we can kind of look forward to is probably the sweetest alignment of the year, is Venus and Jupiter coming together in the sign of Cancer. But again, this is for next week. And I think this week is just really about the shape of our relationships and, how we can move through these tensions that get created, and how we speak and how we act, or how we pause with purpose. So yes. what we also have this weekend, sorry, this video is getting a bit long here, but what we also have this upcoming weekend on August 10th is we have the Leo Deck and Dance workshop. The video also got uploaded. I filmed this before this whole like thing happened, before my cat passed away, so I was like in a completely different mood in that video. But anyhow, we're having that workshop this Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central European time. And this time around, we're doing something completely generous and we're offering it completely for free. Okay, so if you have any Leo placements, you want to learn more in depth about Leo placements, Leo as a sign, and dissecting it into 3 distinct parts, come to this workshop, okay? It's going to be fun. It's going to be free. You can sign up. If you sign up and you don't show up, you still get the recording. So I highly encourage you to do that. The link is going to be in the description down below. And yeah, this is what I have for you guys this week. And I'm definitely, most certainly, going to see you guys soon. Much love and seriously appreciate you. Thank you so much for, being patient with me, for sticking around with me, for not immediately unsubscribing if you're here. So, yes, thank you. And hopefully pleasant as can be week ahead. Bye.